So go ahead. We said 1 o'clock we would start. So it's 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock was the plan. And Simpson, I've actually contacted Andrew, I don't know, 3 times and said, are you good for 1 o'clock on Sunday? I just got a text message from him, 12:59. Almost ready, just making the kids lunch.
That's not a 1 minute activity.
Making the kids lunch? Like, you're just starting that now? Like, how long is that going to take you?
In fairness to Simpson, from what I remember from when we were in school together, his lunch was always an Eat More and a Dr. Pepper. So to open a Eat More and to crack a Dr. Pepper is about 15 seconds. If he feeds his kids what he fed himself, yeah, he will be ready.
All right, welcome everyone to Second Story. With us today, we have Andrew Simpson, and Andrew's here to share his story. So, Simpson, let's hear your second story.
Well, I guess my second story would be when I came to Thunder Bay, and this is the career side or the school side, because there's actually 2. I just realized.
Yeah.
Because I kind of
I'm more interested in your career side.
Yeah.
I lived your damn
Yeah, you did that.
School side.
So yeah, I was a client rep in the film industry for about 9 years, working my way up from running the textile department at William F. White, and then before that, working the floor, pulling orders and loading up crews, going out for features and TV. Did that for a long time, slowly got into set work again. The whole union side wasn't for me. And after getting a taste of that, I kind of hit my ceiling of where I thought I could go with my previous job, and an opportunity to become a professor at my old film school in Thunder Bay opened up, and I jumped on it. And luckily, the person who was leaving, our professor, Don DeLorme, he was the equipment guy. And being a client rep for the largest equipment house in Canada really helped leverage my position. And so I was able to get the gig. Here I am, second story.
Nice. I want to ask, because I don't know that I remember it getting old. Yeah. What initially, so you mentioned film school. We all went to film school in Thunder Bay. Weird place to go, not necessarily a hotbed for it. But what initially brought you there? Because you grew up in Toronto, right? So
the main reasons why Thunder Bay, I had to get away from everyone. I had to be alone, because I felt like if I was gonna take this on, I don't know for you two, because you're both kind of dude bro-ish, but like I really wanted to. Sorry, I just wanted to slide.
What does that?
I just wanted to slide that in. No, I think a lot of us, when we take film, it's a big risk, especially for us, because it's not like there was a factory of movies being made that we were going to come out and work on, right? It was like, yeah, you could go to Corner Gas, or like you could go on the 8th season of Heartland, or what? Nothing. So Trailer Park Boys. So there was nothing. And on top of that, it's an industry where, like, or at least in this field, like you're gonna expose yourself. You're gonna you got to put your emotions on your sleeve a bit. That was hard. I didn't want to do that in front of people that I grew up with. I would collapse. So I had to go as far away as humanly possible, and Thunder Bay was the furthest film school. And then when I researched it and realized they were the only ones still shooting on film and still had more of like a cinema approach, like an old school brick and mortar style of filmmaking, as opposed to every other school, which every other school, when I talked to them, it felt like a toothpaste commercial. Like they were telling me everything I wanted to hear, but there was no value to the words, and they weren't showing me anything. And when I would ask them questions, it was like, that's right, we're a film school. So I could tell they were full of shit. And when I talked to Dennis, I could tell that he was sincere. And you all don't know this. Dennis, we all laugh because he's very much a hippie, but at the same time, he's very much a human being. And so I knew I was talking to a human being. And so film, far away from everyone, an actual human being, this is where I'm going to go. Yeah.
Do you think kind of our influences or our age demographic, I guess the people that were influential, the directors and filmmakers from our time, is that what made you want to go towards the more because you were talking about it being like on actual film, and the other places were maybe geared a little bit more towards broadcast. Do you think that's what pushed you and pushed us there?
I mean, it pushed me. My film school prior to this was a TV show on TVO that no one watches. It was called Magic Shadows, and then it became Saturday Night the Movies. There was a host called El Yost, and he was just this really passionate film connoisseur, and he was able to just get all these incredible interviews, and he would talk to classic filmmakers, like people like David Lean, and talk about Ryan's Daughter at endless amounts, just talking about Robert Mitchum and just how this film was made. But it was a different approach. It was a different way of, it was almost like, we all love this, so let's just talk about how awesome this is. And I always liked that. I always liked that approach. And so I think I've always gravitated more towards performance and more succinct cinematography with intent. And I felt like a lot of what was happening currently, although very fun movies, there wasn't a lot of intent happening. There were people like Fincher and Tarantino that were definitely reinventing intent and showing new ways of how to use cinematography to tell stories. But I had I had this big list of movies that I loved, and they were all old. And so I like that classic style, and that's what I wanted. I wanted an old school discipline. And I didn't know if I was going to do this after I graduated. I actually didn't think I was going to do this. I thought I was just going to go back to pumping gas and just, dying in some small town somewhere. So if I'm going to do
so you did think you were going to go work on corner gas?
Boom. Yeah, no, I didn't think any of this was going to happen, right? I thought I would just quit and then just disappear again. And so I just wanted to have 2 years.
I got two comments. One, it's funny, like out of our graduating class of people, our graduating class, I believe, was 18 or 19, something like that. It was low. We started with like 50 something. Yeah. So a lot of people are thinking, it'll be easy. It's film school, but it's actually incredibly hard. And only basically 1/3 actually finished. So that was always interesting. But out of our group, I think only like 2 or 3 don't work in some capacity in the industry.
That's true.
Out of like 18 or 19 graduates, like almost everybody works in the film industry, which is pretty insane. You don't hear that too often about many, graduating classes. The other thing, it's funny, you called us a dude bro, but you also talked about how you needed to go and like be isolated from kind of what you knew. Yeah. That's exactly what it was for me. I had been a dude bro my entire life, sports kid. It was only like I'd kind of discovered an artistic side of myself when I was like 17, 18, and none of the people I knew understood it. So like I felt misunderstood by everybody around me. So I did feel like I needed to go. And my dream was always to go to Vancouver because it's the most artistic place in Canada other than Toronto. But I just felt like I needed to isolate myself from everything I knew. And that was why I chose Thunder Bay ultimately.
That's awesome.
So interesting that yours is very similar.
And, it's one of my, sorry for moving the camera. One of the things that drives me nuts is that I've got a really good memory, and I hate that I have a good memory because it's just always there. But I remember our first conversation. You're the first person I spoke to in film school. We went out for a smoke. Mm-hmm. First break, we went out to the front of the school. Most people went out to the back. I don't think we knew that existed. And
we got in trouble for it.
We did, yes. Yeah. And you told me about Clint Mansell. And you said that he was one of your biggest inspirations. You loved Requiem for a Dream. You loved Aronofsky. You loved how Clint Mansell's score was able to, elevate the impact of this film in a way that you hadn't experienced before. And I remember thinking, oh, thank God, because I have never had anyone say that to me in person before. Everyone in my upbringing was just pieces of shit. You know what I mean? Like everyone, like at the end of my, right? Because Corey, I said my neighborhood's fucked up. And you were like, oh, it's not that bad, Simpson. And then a lady tried to cut off your vehicle with her baby. You remember that? When we were driving on my street? And she like threw her stroller into your car and was like, what? Her baby. I'm like, this is where I grew up. At the end of my street was a motel and a strip bar. Right? So
this is why you're so tough.
Oh yeah,
I'm
like,
right?
yeah, I'm the toughest guy in the world.
Yeah.
So I'm really good at hiding, and so like I just you didn't think this was going to happen. I don't even know why I did it, because I really didn't even think I was going to get in. The only experience I ever had of any of this growing up was they filmed an episode of Kung Fu: The Legend Continues at that sketchy motel called the Willows. And I remember watching all of them work and being like, I guess this happens here. I would just stare at them and study. I guess it was weird, but I had nothing else going on. But yeah, I did not see that. I did not see a connection to this industry through anyone I talked to. And then I talked to you, I'm like, oh fuck, okay, there are other people. Yeah.
I'm going to make an assumption. So based on where you grew up and how you grew up and the people that you grew up around, did you feel that you didn't fit in there? And then going and to add to that, going to film school, did you kind of find your people?
I would say no. I didn't feel like I fit in. No. I don't know if I would say I found people in Thunder Bay. I don't know if I ever allowed myself to really be comfortable. I think I always kind of kept everyone back a bit. But I was able to engage and emote, and that was difficult at times, but at least I had people around that I could do that with, and that was interesting because I never had that before.
It really was an artist's dream,
Yeah,
like to go to school
absolutely.
there. Somebody who had never, I had felt pretty much like I didn't fit in anywhere, and really film school was the first place where I fit in. So
and it still is that
it was
way.
a nice feeling for sure.
You see these kids, and there's 50 of them, and there are 5 or 6 that are super dynamic, and they're already ready to go. And the other 44 look at them and they're like, I don't belong here. And so my job for those few weeks is to reassure them they do. Every single we're very lucky. We're given this spreadsheet the week before school starts, and it has all their names and all their pictures. And so I study it intensely so that I know their names at orientation. I don't let on that I do. I ask them their names and I learn from them, but just so I know at the drop of a hat, I can let them know that I recognize them as an individual and say that, like, you're here and you belong here, and I need you to do something to stay here, because, like, you're right, this is the greatest 2 years that these kids will have. Hopefully they'll have better ones afterwards, but hopefully up until this point, we can say that to every single one of them, right? Because, like, meant a lot to all of us. I know it did, right? That's why we all care about it. We all still talk about it. I had students have a film up for some awards in Toronto last year, and when they announced conflicts, several gasps in the audience, and they were all running up looking for who the conflicts person was. It's like, oh, I went there, because they know, right? We went through something that no other film school went through, right? We all had to live together for 2 years. Which is why our humor is so brutal at times, but it's because we lived.
Yeah,
we would literally be in class all day, then go shoot all night, and then go edit till the morning, and then be in our pajamas and walk to class and whatever, get through it, and it was wonderful. We had our own little ecosystem, and we did our own little thing. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And none of us slept.
None of us slept.
None of us showered. And
Nope.
Yeah, it was. We were a special breed.
Giant beards, and
everybody had giant. No one had any personal hygiene regimen whatsoever.
Nope.
Nobody exercised. Nobody ate properly.
And I want to say also wild. The ladies too, because I remember Jen Opus took her hat off once, and her hair was so greasy, and she's like, "I haven't showered in so long." I'm like, "I know, we all haven't."
Yeah, I feel you, Jen. I feel you.
That was the first thing when I would come home to my girlfriend. She'd be like, who's now my wife. Yeah. She'd be like, okay, shower, like instantly shower, shave. We got to get these layers off of you because it's
wash the filth off.
Yeah,
it's awful.
It's horrible.
So Simpson, can you? Okay, so we kind of got a sense of what school was like for all of us. Contrast that with the film industry. So you walk out of school. You and Leckie have an issue at the border, but you still get back to Canada eventually.
We do.
Contrast it. You get into the film industry. Contrast it. No, we won't talk about that.
So what's the question?
What? Yeah. So let me get to the. God damn it! Let me get to the question. Contrast your film.
What's
school.
The question, Josh? Get to it.
Yeah. Hold on, guys. I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna get to the question. Contrast film school with the real world. how much different was it first off, but more on the relationship side? Like, what was it like to work with people that you didn't know and you knew you weren't going to be with for that long?
You mean
Or maybe you
on
weren't gonna be
set
with them.
or at William F. White?
On set and like in the actual
Yeah,
business, like in whites, that sort of thing.
well, there is that same ecosystem. It's much larger. You know, there are thousands, if not tens of thousands, of people working in the film industry in South Ontario, and we all know each other eventually. It's really weird, and it's because you do rely on everyone else, and not just their technical prowess, but their quality as a human being, right? Because what I try to tell the students too is you don't just walk into a work environment. You have to first create the work environment. You could be in the middle of a field somewhere. Great, we're going to make a Lord of the Rings movie. Well, that sounds splendid, but the first thing we need is power, and it's got to be safe, and then we have to have distribution for that, and then we're going to need scaffolding. We need all of these things. And it comes down to the technical prowess, but also the ability just to be human beings and to make sure we're all looking out for each other and we're all safe and all this stuff. So that was still kind of in essence what we were doing in film school, just a smaller version of that, because we were making, 50 movies a semester, way more than that. And so, and we're out, in the wild. Professors are giving us $100,000 cameras and saying, okay, go make a movie, bucko. We'll see you in 2 days. Have you showered?
Go shoot your Viking movie.
Yeah, go shoot your Viking movie on top of a freaking mountain in -40 temperature. Like, why not? Sounds good. You know what I mean? Stick those batteries in your pants, because otherwise they'll freeze. But so there is that camaraderie is there. I think the shock when I finally got into the industry was just how few people actually care. It's just a job. So outside of the fact that they're going to do a damn good job, they don't watch their movies. They don't watch the things they do, and they don't care to talk about it. It's just a job like any other job. And that blew me away. I did not anticipate that.
Yeah, you wonder, Corey and I talked about this in a different episode we did with somebody else, but you bring money into it, and money changes creativity, changes art, all that thing. So the second people start getting paid for it, it changes the whole dynamic of what's going on. And yeah, that shocked me too when I moved to Vancouver, and the amount of people who are just like didn't like movies but worked in the film industry. They're like, oh, it's just a job. You realize a lot of it was just blue collar work for a lot of people. It really
is. Other than like camera, it's blue collar. It really is. It's wild. Absolutely wild.
It's a strange thing to try to make that balance too, right? Like if you're gonna take your industry and make it a business or whatever it may be, you gotta be aware that you're going to be compromising something. There's going to be deadlines. There's going to be all these things that compromise your art. But that being said, like I do a video production business. I do a lot of commercials and things like that for businesses. And I look back on other things I've done and go, would I rather be doing anything else, than working for myself and, being able to create these different productions? I don't know. I don't think so.
I agree.
Yeah. There's an interview I watched with Fincher. This is a while ago, so I'm probably going to mess up what exactly he said, but he was talking about how when he would wrap a film, he knew if it was going to be good or if it was going to be great, because he doesn't make bad movies. But he's like, I know it's going to be good or great, but based on how much I had to compromise while we were shooting. So if I had to compromise a lot, I know it's just going to be good. If I don't have to compromise that much of what I want to do, I know it's going to be great. So that's how much faith he has in his own ability. But it leads back to what you're saying about, like, you do have to make compromises in the arts, and when money gets involved and time and stuff like that. Yeah. So ultimately how much you compromise is probably how good your work's going to be.
I remember when I was at William F. White, for about 2 months, they asked me to step back from being client rep and to launch this new rental procedure called the rentals desk. So it's basically everything went funneled to one desk, and we would distribute all the work and print and log all the contracts. It was a good idea. So I was on the desk on the floor for 2 months, and so I'm dealing with all these transport drivers. And at the time we were doing a film called The Shape of Water with Guillermo del Toro.
Good film.
And the drivers were coming in and complaining nonstop, saying this fucking guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, we're taking so long for these shots. It's stupid. This movie doesn't make any sense. Like, they were mad. They were mad.
They're talking about Guillermo del Toro
yeah.
saying that,
and I'm like, and for me, you just smile and nod, right? That's what I've learned in my life from being a little kid. Is you just smile and nod, let people talk, and when they're done,
truck
you
driver.
you just move on.
Yeah.
And so when they left, I had mentioned it to the manager of the floor, and he goes, "Oh, that's such a good sign. That means it's going to be a good movie, because if the transport people hate it, it means they're working. It means they're being pushed." And that's a good thing. When transport says this movie is flowing so great, it's going to be garbage, because it means that there's no creativity and they're just hustling through the shots. And yeah, ended up winning Best Picture. So I guess there was some truth to those words. Sorry, transport.
Dude, it's so funny you're saying that. I remember, like, maybe, I don't know, 11 or 12 years ago, I just moved back to Ottawa, and they were shooting a movie. I remember talking to a guy who was working on it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, dude, such an easy gig. And he was working, he wasn't driving, but he was working something in transport. And he's like, "Oh dude, days are so easy." He's like, 16-hour days. He's like, "I don't do much." And I remember the movie came out, and the movie, it was with Jennifer Lawrence. I can't remember the name of it. It was like House at the End of the Street or something like that. But I remember it just got like destroyed by like critics and viewers and stuff like that. And I never really thought about it till you just brought that up, that like if people are working, it's probably going to be good. And in that one, no one apparently was working that hard, and it turned out to be terrible. So
it's weird.
Maybe there is something
I think
to
so.
that.
I do. The biggest one was...
That's interesting though. I worked hard on Leckie's movie, but it was shit. So, but anyway. I'm just kidding.
What did you do on Leckie's film?
No, I'm just kidding.
That's a good question.
No, I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, what did he do?
I was the grip.
What did I do?
I was the grip. Yeah, what was your role on that film?
He fucked the dog. That's what he did.
Who are you talking? You talking about
Cybulski,
me?
Yeah. What did you do on Corey's film?
I laid on the floor and recorded.
Okay, you're the sound recordist. Yeah. Oh, cool.
That was it.
I was
out.
out.
Yeah. I literally laid on the ground and recorded the sound.
There was very few dolly shots. There's very little for me to do in that film. So I stayed with Reed for a lot of the shoot and helped him do everything. And so I don't actually remember what everyone else did. I was just kind of became his...
In my film, there wasn't many dolly shots.
There was the stuff outside in with the Western on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
That was all very difficult. And we had one shot inside. There was a pretty big setup
at
Rory's. Yeah. But I remember outside of that, a lot of what we did was we did some like fake car light rigs. I was helping Reed set that up. You did a gorgeous... I think he had 4 redheads on C-stand arms.
That was on Cybulski's
Was that
film.
Cybulski's?
That was on Cybulski's film. Yeah,
that was
no. It
that
was
So You Say.
No, it was at Rory's house. We did it 100%. We might not have used the shot.
Oh, are you talking about the headlights when he's laying in the ditch and it kind of goes? Yeah. That was.
It was mind blowing. I remember just being like, oh, like I just had such a great time on that shoot, but there wasn't a lot of gripping to do outside of like the exteriors, which were all brutally hard, but great, super fun.
I sat in the film van, and every time someone opened the door, I'd be like, "Shut the door! It's cold out there," and everybody else was outside freezing their.
The exteriors were a challenge on that film for sure, man. It was like when we did the pickup day, it was minus 60 out. Like it was cold.
Now,
so cold.
None of that's allowed anymore.
Not in the van.
First thing I did when I took over was I instilled a new rule: -20 with the wind chill. There is no shooting outside. But that's because for 2 reasons. One, I don't want kids hurting themselves, and B, film cameras are resilient. It's just metal, right? They're like computers now. You can't just take a fucking Alexa out in -60 weather. That's crazy.
all your sensors and everything.
Oh yeah, they would just freeze over.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So no way.
Yeah,
didn't you already have that rule when we were at film school though? Because when my film was shot, it was -20, and you didn't show up, so I just assumed you already had that rule in place.
I was there. I left for 2 hours for 1 day, and that is translated to 3 days of absence. And you know the worst?
And he apparently collapsed from pneumonia.
I know, it's ridiculous.
So, you went to the hospital, didn't you, for those 2 hours?
No, I was the director of residential life for the student union. and I had to go. I had to go for this dinner because all the investors in the Rotary Club and all these people were doing this big thing, and I had to be there. And I was on your stupid shoot. And by the time I got there,
It was stupid.
I had missed the meal and just got reamed out by everyone. And I'm in a suit, and I had no money. I had to go to Value Village and buy like this $30 suit, and I didn't eat because I had missed your meal. So I was going to eat there, and I had missed the food and got reamed out. Took my suit off, got my clothes back on, went back to your set and got reamed out for being away for the 2 hours, and you'd already eaten. And I was like, "This is that like that's comedy. That's British comedy right there, 101." I loved it.
You know
That
what
is
I'm hearing
funny.
here, Cybulski? I'm just hearing a bunch of
crying.
excuses. Like,
That's
just,
all I'm doing. I'm being a fuck crybaby. But it was just so. No, I'm saying it was
Yeah.
so funny. It was just like because I didn't have skills in that sense. I didn't know how to do anything. You know what I mean? So now trying to manage like all of this stuff and go back and forth. I don't know what I'm doing. It was wild.
Yeah, if nothing else, we learned a lot about time management, right?
Had to.
For sure. Yeah, just juggling a million things.
I wish that
Oh, yeah.
actor still existed. By the way, that angry dude you had, that angry dad, he was actually pretty good.
Oh, Steve?
Yeah, he was good. I wish he was still around.
What
I don't
happened
know.
to him?
I mean,
Do we
it's been
know?
15 years. I came back and he wasn't in the casting book anymore. I'm like, oh shit.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
too bad. He was from Southern Ontario, so maybe he moved
Oh.
back. But yeah, he was very
He
talented.
was.
Yeah, Steve Brooks. He was great.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it was
I got us
scary.
totally sidebarred there. We were talking. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but I just started insulting
Yeah.
people, and that's where
where
we
it
went.
goes.
But
Sounds about
yeah,
right.
it was something. Yeah, I don't know. It was something to do with work.
Yeah.
But so let's talk about you going back, because that is actually your second story, Corey. I don't know if you had a question there, and I interrupted, but let's talk about you actually going back to Thunder Bay.
Let's
Yeah.
go there because I'm going to have some questions around that.
All right. Sounds
So,
good.
All right. So you obviously left the film industry to go back to the film school that was your I don't
Alma
know,
mater?
what do you call it?
Alma
Alma mater or
mater.
whatever. Yeah, that's whatever that
Your
shit
alum?
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're alum. Yeah, there you go. That's the word I was actually looking
Yeah.
for. So you're alum. So you go back to Thunder Bay. Corey wanted to ask this question, so I'm stealing it from him, if that's cool. What was that conversation like with your family? Hey, we're going to leave this metropolis that is Toronto, and we're going to go to little old cold ass Thunder Bay. What was that
Well,
like?
it was an easy decision, oddly enough. So, my son had received. Well, we had an inclination that there was a diagnosis coming for my son because he was having a very hard time living in Toronto. Toronto has an energy, a very angry, rushed energy, where at any moment anyone will compromise you. You know, like people will cut you off with like an inch, right? Because they've got to be one car up ahead. And it was every day there was this relentless anger and intensity. And the summer before we had made the decision, a biker got hit right in front of our house as we were getting off the bus. And it wasn't fatal, but it very well could have been. It was very messy. And we had to walk past it. And the only reason it happened was because someone was in a rush and just cut this guy on a bike off. 2 weeks later, a guy on a bike was going down the sidewalk and like screamed at my kids to jump out of the way because he didn't want to have to slow down on a sidewalk. Now, they were with the dad who became Papa Bear immediately, and I just stepped and kicked him down. But that's another thing. You don't do that
Wait,
to
you
my
assaulted
kids.
the guy?
Well, no, I kicked his bike. I assaulted his bike. And
Okay. All right.
yeah.
That's so much better.
well, because you're not going to, you're using it as a weapon against my kids. My daughter was 3. You know what I mean? Like, you just don't do that.
Yeah.
And so I grew up with that stuff. That was one thing. He was having a really hard time. So my son was very happy to go. On top of that, I would hit a ceiling professionally at William F. White where I had started to create my own initiatives and they weren't going anywhere. So like my neck is just craning at the ceiling of where I can go. Creatively, I was doing better because I was directing and I was getting heat, and now people were approaching me to direct projects. So that was the really only hard part for myself. My wife was trepidatious because she had a lot of friends and she has a lot of roots in Toronto. And for her, those relationships are important. I didn't really have friends in my life, so I don't need friends. I'm okay to not, I can leave, no problem. So for me, it was more about, trying to do the right thing for my future and for my son. And my wife and I both agreed that it would be the best thing for Baxley. Um, and so I kind of like, it was hard because for William F. White, that was easy. Because I was ready to move on to something else. But it was like my whole dream of being a director had finally kind of come there. You know what I mean? And then it was like, you got to say bye again because, it's not going to happen. So I did basically 3 projects in 2 months to kind of like carry my next year so I could kind of plan to try and stay relevant. And my wife said, let's do it. Her name's Liz, so I should say her name. Her name's Liz, and she's amazing. And so we took a look at the houses in Thunder Bay. They're very affordable, crazy affordable. Like the last city in the world where you can like afford a house. And we
Especially come from Toronto,
yeah,
right?
I mean
Yeah.
we're in a very good neighborhood, right? It's not this, but it's quite nice. And our mortgage is $400 less than our rent in Toronto. Now, I want to stress that we have a very difficult rental market in Toronto, and I have 2 kids. So we're being rent-evicted out of every house because of that loophole. So the last place we could afford in Toronto that would still allot us to have bedrooms of our own was in a very sketchy neighborhood. And the first weekend when I went out to do the groceries, there was someone smoking crack on my front porch. When I say porch, stoop, right? Because we lived above like a variety store. And I was like, shh, okay, now I understand why no one wants to live here. And so there was a lot of trying to understand the community there and have conversations with those people. But knowing in the back of my head, I grew up with this, so it's okay for me. When I see, I'm not shocked by this. So I had to talk with this person and said, I will give you times when I won't walk out the door and you can sit here and you can get your fix. But like if I open the door and I say I need you to go, it's because my kids are coming down and I can't have them see it. And please don't leave anything. And he didn't. He was super cool about it. We had a great understanding. And so I said, this is a safe place to do your drugs, but there's a time. But that's the type of conversation I don't want my kids to have to feel is normal. So
Right.
I want them to have a little bit, because again, I'm comfortable, but I also know in the back of my head, because I've lived it, that there is an erraticism sometimes associated to substance abuse. And I can't trust erraticism around my children. And so all of these things were kind of playing into it. So yeah, I was working for TIFF actually at the same time. I was an employee at TIFF, working the film festivals. I was doing a lot of great stuff, but it's not the me show. I'm part of a family. And so when we made the decision to come here, part of it was get a good house, live in a good neighborhood, do it right. And the first night they stayed, we all slept here. The next morning, my son, and I don't want to quote Trump, but tears in his eyes, he said, I don't hear anyone yelling. It's nice and quiet. And he was really happy. Like, he was really happy. And his mental health has never been better. And so everything
Okay.
else going away, that's everything. So the fact that I have a job that I love and we live in a beautiful 70s house and this is all icing on the cake, right? But like, he's doing great. And my wife is so dynamic. She's got a million friends here and she's doing great. So it worked out. It really did.
That's
That's
awesome,
awesome.
man. Yeah.
I got
Good
a
to hear.
comment on the wood behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. It reminds me so much of the basements I would hang out in as a
Yeah.
kid with
Me too.
the poster from the '84. Yeah, was it the Canada
That's
Cup,
right.
right? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and then the wood paneling. It's awesome.
It was a big selling feature.
You made them throw
because
that
I was
in,
like,
of course.
you ever seen Beetlejuice, right? You know when when he says, like, when Jeffrey Jones says, just don't touch this room. Then when we looked over this house, Liz had plans for everything, but I said, just don't touch this room. I really need this to stay a 70s basement because it's perfect.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Awesome.
Go ahead. Did you have a question there, Corey?
Yeah, a question about your work. So so you're teaching now in the film program. What's so just for context for anyone that's listening, we graduated 16 years ago from film school, and I'm just wondering, what's the crop of students like now compared to what they were back then?
Nice. They're all very nice.
Well,
Yeah, we weren't.
wait, are you comparing them to me and Josh?
No,
Because that's not
we
fair.
were all salty, right? We were we loved each other, but we were salty, right? To each other. And that was part of how we expressed our camaraderie, right? They're incredibly supportive. And the last 2 years, they have really made an effort to try and not click up, to try and make sure everyone, everyone is successful. And I use our class a lot for examples, and I'm going to call out two people, Rory Durno and Jen Opus, who were both incredibly reserved and quiet people that no one really paid any attention to. And on my color Bolex film, I was desperately in need of a crew person, and Rory introduced himself to me and said, I just want to let you know I'm happy to help out if you need to. And I just didn't even know who he was. And so, of course, and Rory just immediately became this amazing member of our group and became a huge resource for us. He was my AD. He was your cam op, Corey.
Yeah.
Was he on your film?
He was my
your
AD.
as well.
He was my AD.
And he was an
actor.
Yes, that's right. He's an incredible young man and is doing really well in the industry now. Jen Opus became my first camera assistant, and has done incredible work.
Oh, she was my AD on my film, and camera assisted me a lot, like on many films. Yeah,
and those two individuals, had we stayed cliquey, not only would we would have taken away their opportunity. We all came here with a dream, and we're doing to them what society was doing to all of us, and we're predetermining people's worth, and we're predetermining where they can go, which is fucked up. And they broke out of that mold, and they showed us what anyone is capable of. But on top of that, it paid back to us because it increased our pool of people that had drive and and that wanted to be doing this. And so there's 50 of you, and if you all came here, it's for a reason. Like, you could have 50 awesome crew members instead of 10 awesome crew members and you 40 that will just make shit amongst yourselves, right? And I look back and I think, like, there was a lot more people that maybe could have been there. We had a couple of people that 100% were not going to help, but for the most part, you are able to create your own world here. For the next 2 years, these kids can make their own rules on how they want to treat each other and how they want to build each other up, and they're super receptive to that. And a lot of the predetermined judgments that we were all indoctrinated with from our culture and how we grew up, they're not there anymore. And the things that were issues to us are no longer issues. No one gives a shit about gender. No one gives a shit about sexuality. No one gives a shit about any of that. It's old people care about that. Young people don't care anymore. We've moved on to bigger problems, like, how am I going to buy a house? You know what I mean? Like, there's bigger problems that they're worried about. And it's really refreshing to see in their art that they're also more willing to be open with their feelings. We weren't.
It's interesting. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying for sure. It's interesting that you say that too, because it was kind of cool watching, even in our group, just watching everybody kind of find their niche, find their thing that they're good at. Like, I think of someone like George Renner. he found, his visual effects, and he was so good at
Yeah.
it. And I actually I teach at college here in Sarnia,
Awesome.
video production, and I just had this exact same discussion with my class the other day about me as a business owner. When I'm looking to hire, to be honest with you, I can teach you camera, I can teach you lights, I can teach you sound, I can teach all those things to an employee. But what I can't teach is work ethic, social skills. I mean, you can talk about those things, but it's those pieces come a bit inherent in a person. So me personally, when I'm looking to hire as a business, I'm usually looking to hire someone that works hard, that's easy to talk to, that can take constructive criticism, and that, just is able to move with what we need.
Yeah.
The rest I can teach. I can teach camera and all that stuff to you,
Totally.
and add skills. So yeah, that's cool, man, to hear that difference.
And I think that's being reflected in the film industry now too, is that you're seeing a lot of talented individuals who just happen to be extraordinarily mean, and that is now the variable that's preventing them from getting work, because the new filmmakers,
Right.
the new film workers are from a new generation who are like, we're happy to work hard, but you don't have to treat us like this. Right? You know what I mean? It's
Right.
that whole system of, well, they treated me like garbage, so I'm going to treat you like garbage. It's fading now
Yeah.
too. It's really wild. So yeah, you can you can't stop people from being a-holes, but you can teach them the cameras.
You can kind of see it too, and you just look at certain actors' careers, like the trajectory that or like what they've fallen into. You're like, oh, why can't they get good work anymore? And then you kind of wonder, like, is there something behind the scenes? And a lot of times there is, but I won't name names. But I think all here know who I'm referring
I
to.
don't, but I will give one example. James Woods.
Oh no,
I love James Woods. I don't care what his political affiliation is. I love James Woods. I love seeing him in movies, and no one will hire him because he's a raging a-hole now, and he like has to impress his opinions on everything, and it's heartbreaking because he's one of my all-time favorite actors. And so yeah,
I don't honestly remember the last time I saw him. Maybe like Straw Dogs remake, which was like 10 years ago, maybe more than that. I think that's the last time I saw him in something that was
Family Guy.
Family Guy, yeah, ooh, piece of candy. Any Given Sunday. I mean, that's 1999, but he killed it in that movie. He was the medic.
Yeah,
he was the medic, faking everyone and sending them out hurt and everything.
Right.
He killed it. He's such a dynamic actor, and it's heartbreaking to see people being like, no, I'm just gonna choose my personality over like sharing my art.
Yeah, there's a long list of it.
It's a shame.
Are you still finding time to make films like yourself? Are you still directing?
I am. So so sorry, I'm like stumbling here because I'm trying to like, one of the things I've learned is that my addiction to work is part of my illness, but I still work constantly. Right. So yes, I've got several feature scripts on the go literally right now with several different co-writers that I'm trying to get funding for. I have one feature with actors attached, and I'm trying to get funding for. I've got a short in post that I made with my students during COVID. It's in post hell because, and you might remember this. Remember the Chasing Mascots film that Lee made, and we had a great time filming it, and then it went to the one student in post, and it just died. You can't give, post is hard to give to students because they're on their own, and I've learned that.
Right.
But on last summer, I had a meeting, and I was just told, like, it's cute that you keep making these shorts, but like, if they're shorts, no one cares. And my last short I made before I moved here was called Big Wheels, and it was my biggest project yet. It was a $50,000 budget. It was written by Stephen King, and it had the makings to be a big film. It was a 23-minute film. We shot it over 2 days, and it was polished. Like, we got it professionally done every step of the way. Top people worked on it. One of James Cameron's cinematographers shot it. Like, we really went all out for this film.
Wow.
And then COVID hit, and it was like, and so that hurt. So
Yeah, you couldn't even show it, right?
online,
Like in a meaningful way.
exactly, online festivals, and you had like the film was designed for a theater. Like there were all these little builds and things happening, right? And like taking cues from people who like really tease audio to steer you, like Lynch and Gaspar Noé and all these filmmakers, and learning from that. And it did nothing. It played at a drive-in, which was cool, because that was allowed during COVID, but it did nothing. And so that was supposed to be my bridge. And so what I did last summer was I sold my GameCube collection, my PS2 collection, and my Xbox collection, and I funded a spec spot for another feature script that I've written. So we shot that, and it's been color corrected, and now it's in post. So that's going to be like my baby script I really want to do. Here is one segment of it ready to go. It's done. Please give me money. And 2 days ago, we had our first day of production on a feature that myself and another professor, Jessica Graham, we're going to co-direct this summer. And so we're doing it Sam Raimi style. It's like, we're not paying anyone. Bring a sandwich because we're making a movie. And so Blackmagic 4K Pocket with an anamorphic Micro Four Third lens. Thunder Bay
Nice.
is a gorgeous city for architecture, and it still looks like the 70s here. And so let's own it. And so it's inspired by 70s cop films. It's inspired by The French Connection and Columbo and Banachek and McCloud and all that stuff. And so we shot one scene at the airport 2 days ago where we cut off this dude's head right in front of a plane. It was great. And Damian Gilbert,
Yeah.
we cut his head off. And so, and
Was
Oh, yeah?
Michael elated a part
What's
of that? Was the Michael elated
was,
part of that?
yeah.
The podcaster? Yeah, okay. I saw a picture of it on. He posted something on
cool.
Instagram.
That's
with
what it was. Yeah. So
Nice.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay, I was wondering that too.
it's this story. So basically, it's a cop film with like there's like a local mob and there's this German mob coming in. I'm teasing a little bit about what's really happening in Thunder Bay with the ports and everything, but it's mostly let's just have fun and let's just go over the top and make a film. And so it's not our baby, but it's not precious, but we're gonna fight hard for it. And so it's casted. We're going to shoot random days here and there, just a scene here, a scene there. My editor in Toronto is on standby. He's down to do it pro bono because we all want to make a feature. And so at the end of the summer, we'll have this in the can. It'll go to post. It'll get finished. And then I can say, look, I did a feature. And here's my spec. And here's my 5 scripts. And now can we talk?
Give me money.
Give me money. You bastards.
Money me
me now because
Yeah.
I'm getting old and I want to make movies. So yes,
It's
still doing it.
I want to talk about one thing. Well, I want to talk about 2 things, but this one first. You talked about being addicted to
Yeah.
work. Corey, I know, is addicted to work. I am also addicted to work. What is that like? Talk about that, because like a lot of people are not addicted to work, and we live in a time where people are addicted to the opposite. So they're addicted to not working. Where does that come from? Why do you think people like us are addicted to work?
I think a little bit has to do with Thomas the Train and being told to be a useful engine, right? You got to work and be useful. No, I think it comes down to Protestant values. You know, growing up a poor wasp and being like, you have to work and 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 you have to work. I also spent, I'd say, 10 years of my life doing nothing. I mean it. I would literally sit on the couch and watch infomercials, the same infomercial, you know, the magic bullet on repeat for 8 hours and then go to bed. Like I just had no drive to do anything other than watch movies or just stare. And was just waiting for whatever was going to happen in my life. And so the big change happened when I moved out on my own, because it was like, well, you're supposed to just work. So I guess I'll just work. And then you just do it and you do it and you do it. And then it translates to things that are fun, because now I'm in film school and it's fun to work now. Now I want to do it all the time. It still is fun. I think it's been getting worse truthfully, because I always felt like I had to earn my R&R, and now I feel like I almost can't have R&R. You know what I mean?
That's how I
Yeah.
feel too.
And my Liz is very good about calling me out on it. But basically, I push myself till I collapse, and then I take a 24-hour like sleep, and then I do it again. And yeah, and I know that's not healthy, but
Well, and
yeah.
I think all three of us, me and Josh, have had these conversations, and we do the same thing. And there's kind of an important concept where, you know, for years you trade your time for money.
Yeah.
At some point, you got to trade your money for time,
Yes.
right? Because time is the most, like, when you think about it, time is the absolute most valuable thing that we have as an asset, right?
Mhm.
And we have less of it
And it
every
can
day.
change like that where it's not available to you.
And I think that's part of it too, was like, once I had made, like, I never thought I'd make a film. I had made this little, I tried to make a feature when I was when I was like 21, not knowing anything. I had worked and worked and worked. I worked 3 jobs for 3 years. My day off was Sunday because I only worked 1 job, right? Like, I did not know how to stop. So I'm like 21. I've got like $10,000 sitting in the bank. So I'm going to make a feature now. But I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'll tell you right now, I pissed away $10,000 because it's a bunch of master shots with an onboard mic with no cinematic lighting. It was like Manos, the Hands of Fate.
Right.
It was just brutal. And that was a big wake up call, because it was like, you're clearly stupid. So get smart and do it again. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what you're doing. You just spent, it's stupid. You spent $10,000. Oh, I got Moxie.
Yeah,
Great.
but
Is that different? Is
with
that
that being
different now?
said, you learn from that, right?
Well, I learned not to do it again. and so honestly, when I moved to London to be with Liz, I just worked. I had 1 day off in the entire time I lived in London. I had 1 day off, and it was one of my birthdays. I decided to take a day off, and I watched the Man with No Name trilogy. I watched all 3 Sergio Leone films, and I thought that was fun. I should probably try to do that again one day, because it was nice to not do that for a while. But it was meeting someone who I still talk to. There was a guy named Matt in London, and he was a big film guy. And so when we were both older, we were both too old to be doing what we were doing. And we both said, let's do it. Let's go to film school together. Let's go and just do it. And that was a big reason why I kind of moved and did the whole film school thing. But
Yeah,
man, it's fun, you know? And so it's hard.
Yeah,
And I'm going to be dead one day, and I probably won't have a reincarnation, because I don't really believe in that. And so you're just, life is so silly. The fact that we even get to do this is so, it's funny how the world works and how the universe works. So you got to use it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you don't have much left. So part of me reflects back. I am long-winded. I'm sorry. I don't talk much to people.
No, it's good.
One of my a film that was a huge inspiration for me was Akira Kurosawa's Dreams. Have either of you seen Dreams?
I haven't seen Dreams, no.
So
I don't think I have.
he had
either.
tried.
Unless I sat in your dorm and watched it.
It's possible.
In your room.
Camden, I know Camden watched it once. My Color Bolex film, the scene with Harriet where she comes out and coddles Camden to death was inspired from a scene from that movie.
I lit that
and
film.
so you did a great job. You and Chris Sajak, you did a great job. And so Kurosawa had tried to kill himself because his country had taken away his ability to make films. And it was Spielberg and Lucas and Coppola who would finance and allow him to keep making films because they were his heroes. But he, near the end, decided to make a film where he filmed his dreams. All of his childhood dreams. He wanted to film them as a preservation for whatever reason. And one of them had to do with Van Gogh. And Martin Scorsese plays Van Gogh. And he's furiously painting. And a young Kurosawa walks up to him and listens to him. And Scorsese turns and blows up at him and goes, "How are you not painting right now?" Like, how can you just not make something because it's right here in front of you? You have to do it. You have to always do it. And that to me was like, okay, that's part of this. Is like, you spent 10 years literally doing nothing with your life. You're 23 now and you've got nothing going on. Work. Just go, 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 go. Because one day you won't be able to paint. One day you won't be able to make film. And so you had better look back at everything you've done and say, I did it. Because otherwise you didn't, right? Dennis has that philosophy, right? If you want to learn how to play guitar, do it. Because 5 years from now, you either can or you can't, right? And that was it. I just have to do it. So I'm just going to keep doing it.
I remember him saying that. He said it about the guitar, and he said it about kayaking.
Yes, he did.
You want to learn to
yeah.
Because that was where it got into the whole boat in the river
right.
thing. That was like a notorious speech when we went to film school, but it was like a 2-hour conversation. But that was the whole part that I remember, is him talking about kayaking, because I liked kayaking. And I was like, what, these bitches don't know how to kayak? Come on. I was like, but when he said it, it made sense.
From Ottawa,
son. Yeah, I'm on the Ottawa River. I know how to kayak. That stuck with me actually when he talked about kayaking, because I was like, yeah, I want to write, and that's what I want to leave the world. I'm not going to leave much to the world other than my children and their family and stuff like that. But like, to the rest of the world, I'm nothing. But I can leave my words behind, and hopefully they're good words.
You made it.
I have. I mean, no matter whatever happens in the rest of my life,
it's crazy.
Yeah. I wrote one. I want to write like 50 of them, and hopefully that's what I can leave the world one day.
It's awesome.
Something to laugh at. And look, this guy thought he could write.
You know what he can barely talk, but that's
he can't read.
This is you'll be taught in school what not to do. Literary.
That's true.
Literary classes.
Yeah. But literary failures 101.
And that's where I bless myself every day, and I bless the world for allowing me. I'm not religious. I'm just saying it. But like, it's you, Corey, myself, we are living our dreams, and that's fucking lucky. And so keep doing it. Just, how could I not make films? You know what I mean? How could you not write? How can you not create? You know what I mean? Like, that's what we do. Right? It's awesome.
We're some of the few human beings in history who haven't had to like go out and actually hunt for their food or defend themselves 24/7 from something that was going to kill them. Yeah. We're very fortunate, and for us to just be like, I'm too tired to write today. It's kind of a piss poor excuse. So that's, I get your addiction to work and Corey's, and I get my own, obviously. So yeah, it's interesting to hear you.
Just gotta be careful.
You made me really think about mine.
And that does.
Just gotta be careful.
Well,
that's what pneumonia was. I mean, I burnt myself out. I was averaging 2 hours of sleep. My diet was non-existent. I was smoking way too much, and so I did. Life lesson.
Yeah, and we were always outside in the cold, not wearing proper clothing and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, we were just dumb
Village
kids.
leather jackets. Yeah.
No gloves.
And so bit by bit, no, that's true, Val. I missed that jacket, but it's like, oh, I'm cool. You know what I mean? But but
I always had a hoodie on my Value
too.
Village leather jacket.
But and that I had that like woolly sweater with the hood. And I remember wearing that. I wore that the first winter when I was in Toronto. When the co-workers...
God, that sweater stuck.
It did. Because I just smoked constantly in this thing. And I remember the first day I wore it on set, guy goes, you know what that reminds me of? The bird lady from Home Alone 2. You look like a fucking bird lady. I was like, I'll buy a new jacket tomorrow, I promise. And I did.
So accurate.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
because
so
you just
accurate.
grow acclimatized to your own stink, and your own nastiness. But
oh my god.
But again, part of the when I had kids too was just sort of transition out of that stuff. So quitting smoking and not drinking anymore and trying to eat a little better and sleep a little more, and you know what I mean? Still not great at all this stuff, but at least I quit smoking. So bit by bit, just trying to do a little bit, because I know that the one thing I can't control is my work habits. So I had better do other things to limit its impact.
Cybulski and I have been talking. Well, we've been talking for a few years that we need to make our way back up to Thunder Bay and to the school, but like to make it meaningful somehow. Like, I don't know if we can talk in your class or guest direct or do something. We'll come up with something weird that we come up and actually get involved in.
Absolutely.
But
we'll go shoot our pilot up there.
Well,
the pilot
we could
we've
shoot
been
the pilot.
writing.
so there is something very unique that our program launched last year. This is something that Eric has really wanted for a long time. You know, he was always been pushing shoots in the summer, right? Even when we were there, it's like, come on, we got to make stuff. And
yeah, him and Lee were always doing that, right?
that
Like
kind of
different.
stuff. And so,
yeah.
The broadcasting department became DMP, Digital Media Production, and it foreclosed 2 years ago. And so all of that space and equipment has been reallocated to the IMD program and film. So we got the studio, right? So now we have the studio. It's ours. And
Nice.
all of their equipment and that equipment room upstairs on the second floor is now the Summer Shoots alumni room. So it is free for any student or alumni of either program can come back at any time and can make a feature free of charge. We have 7 4K Blackmagic Ursa cameras. We have a Red 1. We have lights, grip, sound, everything. And anyone can come back anytime and can make whatever they want. Last year we had 3 or 4
just in studio or outside of studio as well?
Anywhere. I'm just saying, like the equipment, we have that now as well. Yeah. And so there's also going to be several shoots happening, and some people are staying in town and one person's coming back this summer for that reason. So y'all, cool. Josh, you want to make something, you want to make a pilot, like literally we have an equipment room. You two are alumni. You can have it for free. Mm-hmm. No questions asked.
Well, we've written a TV script. Like we've got a pilot written and part of a second episode, and we've got a bunch of other episode ideas, but we think it's pretty good.
That's awesome.
And a couple other people I've read it think it's pretty good. So yeah, we're just trying to figure out ways to get it shot, get it funded, all that kind of stuff. So
I think the thing would be getting it funded, where nobody's going to let us shoot anything. I got every rejection letter for second story work for turning it into a TV series. I got my endless stack of them. It's about a mile high, but yeah, it's I mean that's so tempting for
and
alumni.
You remember Thunder Bay?
It comes down to we just got to do it ourselves, right? Like we got to just make it happen ourselves.
That's what all this is.
Yeah.
So Simpson, you want to give us a plug for the college or anything like that? Do you want to talk about the program?
So absolutely. So Conflicts has been getting better and better and better. One of the the strength of our program has always been that we create workers. We don't lie to our students and say, we're going to graduate 50 directors. You're going to learn directing because, unlike every other film school, you're going to make 7 films. You will direct and produce 7 films. No other film school does that. But it also helps you to learn that through making those 7 films, you're going to have to crew on probably about 28 to 30 other films through your 2 years there. So what you're also going to get is a full spectrum look of every opportunity this industry has. We had a key grip up 2 weeks ago. His name's Tyler Enns. He was the key grip on The Witch, the new Resident Evil movie that came out a little while ago. Great guy. And when he and I were leaving the school, I was driving back to the airport, he said, you're graduating workers. Like most film schools, you get people coming out and their first day on set, it's a blazer, it's tight pants Tuesday, a little scarf, and where's my coffee? When we graduate people, they come in their crappy old khakis and their work t-shirt, right? Because they've done it. So I love that we still have that. But the neat thing is now having myself with my 12 years of William F. White experience is it's not just a great camera now. Our lighting is dope. Our grip is dope. Our full range of equipment is amazing. And it also helps that William F. White has sponsored us with a lot of equipment as well, with like a no charge rental, so that our kids can have access to equipment that although by today's standards is not cutting edge, a film student would love lower grade LEDs or Kino flow lights and things like that. Things that we could have only dreamt of when we had two redheads and a piece of white Bristol board, right? And cut this however you want, but I think I'm really proud to be a part of a system where 50 kids come in with a dream, and we ensure that every one of them feels supported with opportunity and support to walk through those doors. You know what I mean? The doors of success, they're already there waiting for you, because it's not like when we were graduating. There's the jobs are there, but anyone can walk through it and get booted right back out. We'll make sure you stay. You know, you're gonna be successful in this industry, and I love it. And they still come out 2 years, best 2 years of their life. I will be there at 3 a.m, and they're still editing, watching weird movies. They're not watching the Sylvester Stallone porn that we were watching when we were there. Remember, Packenham was always playing that thing on repeat, or the Kyle Fidunu doing the what you say thing and playing that Saturday Night Live sketch. But it's still a community. They're still playing board games and talking all night, and so it's 2 years where you get to meet 49 other island of misfit toy individuals, and you get to belong to something, and you get to create whatever you want. You know, that's what we do, and I'm a part of that now. That's awesome.
That's great. And some of the films can be viewed on conflicts.com.
All of the films can be viewed on conflicts.com. You'll see a tab there for films. There are films that came out this year that are far better than I could ever do. I mean, really incredibly talented individuals. www.conflicts.com. You can check out everything we do, and every single film from our entire history, all the way back to 1972. They're all online.
Yeah, so make sure for everyone listening that you also check out that 2007 tab.
Heck yes. So you say.
3 of us.
Food on your plate and shoes on your feet, and Islant fondue. Yes.
Fondue.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Dude. Well, thank you so much, Simpson. And we're going to have you on again at some point. Maybe after you've finished one of your features or you have that out, that would be a great thing to bring back.
Sounds good. Have either of you seen Big Wheels? My Stephen King movie?
No,
I don't think so.
I mean, do you want to see it? Do you want me to send you the link, or?
Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
I'll be a nice guy. I'll tell you that.
Of course, we want to see it.
Yeah, because it gives you a taste.
Yeah,
man.
Awesome.
Yeah, please. I've already watched it, and it's phenomenal. I'll tell you. I've never seen it,
but no, it's good seeing you both. You know, friendships are hard to sustain when people live far enough away, and you two have never missed a beat. You know what I mean? And it's really awesome to see two people with such a special bond, and now creating further, and the next chapter being this podcast. And I just think you guys are fucking killing it. I think it's awesome.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. We love you too.
Thanks for doing this. Love you too, bud.